place with everything you've learned. Please, can't you just give me the medicine, please? I'm going to die if you don't. I can't.
A call from Leanne Cofield's sister.
I'm in constant pain.
A brief message with a long story. Leanne believes something is killing her mother and both of her sisters. Painful sores cover parts of their bodies, and no one seems to be able or willing to help. Leanne moved from Mobile to Sheffield, Alabama last year to be closer to her family.
This is my mother, Rebecca.
But being close is no longer an option.
I haven't touched my mother since August.
She believes touching is just too risky.
They hurt.
Rebecca Cofield started developing these sores in August of 2005.
They don't necessarily itch, but they do hurt. Yeah. And just the emotional and the physical part of it, you know, is just makes me not be able to do very much of anything.
The sores on my head and my hair falling out. And
her daughters, Beth and Crystal, also began to develop the sores.
It feels like stabbing pain, stinging. And after having never had any health problems before, I've been treated like I'm a hypochondriac, like I've, delusional.
They've been to doctor after doctor seeking help. Instead of getting it, they've been called crazy.
They would like to put us in the mental health center.
Leanne turned to the internet hoping to find help for her family.
And that's where I found that message board of the Morgellons.
And it seemed to fit.
Mm-hmm.
She found countless others experiencing the same misery, a brain fog of sorts, problems concentrating, the feeling of bugs crawling on and biting the skin, and painful itchy sores that produce mysterious red and blue fibers and black specks. Some have even reported finding parasites in their sores.
Another name for the bugs that people see first are springtails. I gathered all the information and ran to it with the doctors who refused to even look at it. These are what people are pulling out of themselves, and the doctors are telling them that they're crazy.
And unfortunately, many of this population has really been treated very poorly.
Dr. Randy Wymore is the volunteer research director for the Morgellons Foundation. He says Morgellons is not widely recognized by the medical community. In fact, many patients presenting the symptoms are diagnosed with delusional parasitosis.
Many physicians, as soon as they hear red and blue fibers growing out of the skin, they think, well, that's impossible, this must be delusional.
At first, he was skeptical too. Hoping to end the mystery, he decided to take a closer look.
It didn't take very long until I began to think that something might be going on here. We feel that there is evidence that something unusual is going on with these individuals.
And Dr. Wymore says the fibers coming from their sores remain a mystery.
And I actually spent a fair bit of time this last summer collecting samples from 4 different states, from multiple different clothing retailers, used clothing, carpet, sporting goods clothing. I never found fibers that looked similar to these, and yet the ones coming from California and Texas and Washington and North Carolina, they all look very similar to one another.
Dr. Wymore and a small network of healthcare professionals across the U.S. are working to find ways to help these people, but they're limited.
To do the organized, systematic research is going to involve a lot of people and unfortunately have a fairly big price tag associated with it. It's just the reality of modern biomedical research.
The mystery of Morgellons soon caught the attention of a Tulsa, Oklahoma researcher, Dr. Randy Wymore. His search began here.
Here's a lovely red.
He wondered, could the fibers in the skin simply have rubbed off of people's clothing?
Here's a nice blue material that probably will have some loose fibers that can be pulled off with Scotch tape.
When you took all of these clothing fibers and put them underneath the microscope, did it look like the fibers underneath the skin of the Morgellons patients?
No, not at all. Totally different.
Satisfied the fibers weren't textiles, Dr. Wymore consulted with colleagues at Oklahoma State University.
I didn't know what to think at first. I, of course, did a little research.
I will admit that at first I was a little skeptical.
Doctors Rhonda Casey and Steve Eddy agreed to see Morgellons patients.
That is definitely not a hair, the blue thing there. I'm going to get that. I'd like forceps and a slide.
We were there one day when they brought in 4 patients.
I'm going to see if I can get the little purple-looking thing.
Extracted fibers from under their skin.
Oh, I got it.
Made slides and looked at them under a microscope.
Ooh, it's red.
Actually, it's red and blue.
And this is what they saw. black, red, and blue fibers lurking under the skin. Now they've seen about 25 patients, and the OSU doctors are convinced Morgellons is real. They say they found most of the fibers away from the sores, under unbroken, smooth skin. Still, no matter who you believe, there was one question no one here could answer for us.
You've looked at these fibers under the microscope. What do you think they are?
Oh, I have absolutely no clue.
But Dr. Vitaly Satovsky thinks he might know.
We take this piece of skin and then we extract genes from them.
This biologist at SUNY Stony Brook says he found a gene that only exists in plants inside the skin of the Morgellons.
I would challenge any of these physicians who think that we are just feeding into the delusions to come and examine a group of these patients and see what I've seen.